After being bullied for years, I videotaped my stepbrother and got him expelled from school. To safeguard his future, my entire family wants me to claim that I made up the video. Since last year, my 17-meter stepbrother Jonathan has been bullying me at school. But everything vanished yesterday. Let me give you some context before I tell you what happened. Because this is a tough issue. My mother met Harris, Jonathan's 45-year-old father, at her work's annual dinner 3 years ago. When I was 5 years old, my father perished in a vehicle accident. My parents reared me. Mother has been alone since then. She had a couple dates before meeting Harris, but nothing meaningful. He appeared to care profoundly about her, and he was pleasant and accomplished. They dated for almost a year before marrying. Harris arranged a meal where I met Jonathan approximately 6 months into their relationship. Jonathan appeared good at first. He was calm and pleasant. We even played video games together after supper, and I recall thinking that having a brother or sister would not be that horrible. Being the only child has made me feel lonely at times. Things changed after the wedding, and when we all moved in together. The first several weeks were difficult, but they could be completed. Then, when our parents were not there, Jonathan began uttering these insignificant things. He would remark things like, "My mom is a successful marketing executive, my dad was basically my mom's meal ticket," or "I was probably desperate for a father figure, my grandma gave me a number of picture albums, and I have many fond memories of my father." At first I tried to ignore it, supposing he was just growing acclimated to things. In contrast, the remarks were increasingly negative. In my room I kept photos of my father. He would make fun of me for it. And tell me that I should move on, since his father is now my father. He would tell me that I was fortunate that they allowed me to reside in their home since Harris had purchased it, and sold both of their other properties to do so. When I attempted to tell my mother about it, she told me I was being overly emotional, and that Jonathan was simply adjusting to having a new family member. The true tragedy came when Jonathan moved to my school at the beginning of the academic year. We attended the same school because our parents believed it would help us get along better as brothers. Jonathan is a regular child who is liked by many. He basically rules the social scene. He is a football player with a large social circle. Many of my friends are interested in education and computer programming, which makes both subjects even more appealing to me. Jonathan started talking these falsehoods about me in school. He claimed that I weep myself to sleep and pine for my deceased father, which I do not do, that I desperately seek Harris' approval, that I avoid him out of respect for my father's memory, and that I am envious of him, since he has a biological father. People I didn't know approached me and asked if I wanted a hug since they were aware of my mental health issues. Physically, it started little. He'd stumble into me in the hallways and claim it was an accident. He would knock over my books and apologize in a false voice, making his pals laugh. However, things became worse. He accidentally splashed his energy drink all over my laptop at the restaurant. My laptop was where I stored all of my computer work. The laptop itself was also damaged, but I was able to recover the hard drive. When I informed Harris and Mom, Jonathan admitted it was a mistake and offered to let me use his old laptop. They told me I was exacerbating the situation by agreeing with him. Even Aunt Sarah, my mother's sister who was once extremely close to me, and always there for me, advised me to try harder to connect with Jonathan. Some of the things she would say were, "You're too sensitive, just like your father was, and he's just being a normal teenage boy." Because my father was always my idol, it hurt a lot when she blamed me for it. Things deteriorated significantly around a month ago. When I left gym class, the guys' locker room was packed with Jonathan and his pals. They pushed. I spun around and knocked off my glasses, but they didn't touch me. They were making fun of the fact that I couldn't even defend myself like a guy. At that time, I decided that enough was enough. I began discreetly taping everything on my phone when Jonathan was present. It was really important to me, but I realized it might not be the best thing to do. They didn't trust me when I explained what was going on. 2 weeks ago, I received just what I needed. Jonathan and his pals were making fun of Tommy, a newbie. Tommy is bashful and little for his age. In a game of keep away, they tossed his bag over his head, and he attempted to jump and retrieve it. They referred to him by their given names. "Cannot get there," say something like "short stack." "What's wrong?" I documented everything. But Jonathan went too far. When Tommy finally, after grabbing Jonathan's luggage, Jonathan became enraged and gave him a strong push. Tommy's nose burst open when he tripped and collided with a locker. I brought the footage directly to the director. Even if they didn't always follow our school's zero-tolerance bullying policy, they couldn't ignore it when they saw video evidence of a genuine physical attack. Jonathan was formally booted out of school at the end of the day, and Harris was summoned to pick him up. When we returned home that afternoon, everything was in disarray. Jonathan sobbed to his father about how his life had been wrecked and how he would never be able to attend a prestigious institution because of it. He also stated that it would reduce his chances of receiving a sports scholarship. Harris yelled at me, saying I had betrayed my family and was just upset over Jonathan's success. But what's the worst thing? My mother agreed with them. In fact, she advised me to go visit them first before the director. I had betrayed my family by talking about them behind their backs, she said. To get Jonathan back in school, I had to inform the director that I had replaced the tape or something. Mom began to cry when I answered no, and attempted to tell them about all of the times I had been bullied. I informed her I was terminating her marriage, and that I needed to prioritize my family. Then, 4 months before I turned 18, Harris said that he would toss me out. I contacted my grandma, my father's mother, because I couldn't take it anymore. Since she came to rescue me that night, I have been residing with her. My mother repeatedly calls and texts me, accusing me of destroying our family and threatening to do the same to my future. Some of my pals have called me a rat. However, those who have also been bullied by Jonathan have thanked me. I don't feel horrible about what I did since I know it was the correct thing to do, but now everything is in disarray. The worst thing is that my mother, who has always encouraged me to stand up to bullies, is now telling me that I should have stayed silent. AITA? Update 1. I'd want to thank everyone who responded to my last article ahead of time. Thank you very much for your support. I wanted some time to comprehend everything before I posted. A lot has happened over the previous 2 weeks, and they've been quite busy. The day after my mother unexpectedly showed up to my grandmother's place. Even though she didn't want to, my grandma allowed her in. Mom looked dreadful, as if she had not slept in days. She burst into tears when she saw me for the first time and expressed her desire to put things right since she had failed me as a mother. For a minute, I felt sorry for her. Then she spoke about Jonathan. She informed me that she understood why I did what I did, but I needed to recognize that this may have a significant influence on Jonathan's future. After being expelled out of our school, it appears that they attempted to enroll him in 3 other schools in our region. They all rejected him because of the bullying. Even though I just presented the footage to the director, it spread, and Jonathan is now being labeled a hard bully. According to Mom, Jonathan was depressed, ate little, and spoke constantly about how his life was finished. She told me that now that he has lost his football scholarship opportunity, he may not be able to attend college. Several times throughout our conversation, she reached for my hand, but I declined. And she was still trying to make me feel awful about standing up for myself. I could not believe it. My grandma finally spoke out after sitting in her wheelchair and remaining silent the entire time. She told me something I didn't know. My father had been the victim of severe bullying in high school. He appeared quiet, engaged in school, and vulnerable to bullying. Much like myself when I was that age. He ended up breaking his arm one day and had to visit the hospital as a result. The bullies shoved him down a flight of stairs. My grandma claims that the tragedy altered him. Following that, he resolved never to allow bullies get away with injuring others. Because of this, Dad always encouraged me to advocate for myself and others. She informed me that I'd done something he would have been proud of. Giving my defense to Tommy, the newbie, and myself. While I was still processing all of this new information about my father, my mother delivered the true news. She burst into tears and stated Harris had offered her a choice the night before. Should I acknowledge that I modified the video and make a statement claiming that I did so? If Jonathan could get back into school, he would file for divorce. I was implored to help her save her marriage since she couldn't handle another shattered relationship. I couldn't believe what I heard. My mother encouraged me to lie and take credit for everything so that her husband would not abandon her. My grandma must have noticed how astonished I was, since she instructed my mother to go immediately. She claimed that a mother was not really a mother if she instructed her child to accept responsibility for being harmed. After my mother departed, my grandma sent me a collection of letters written by my father before his death. She assumed I needed them immediately quickly, even though they were meant to be handed to me when I turned 18. In one, written a week before his accident, he informed me that he wanted me to always do the right thing, regardless of what others thought. In his writing, he discussed how being courageous does not equal being bold, but being courageous and doing the right thing. Between now and then, education has become more difficult. People who are acquainted with Jonathan have been harassing me online by uploading altered photos of me with derogatory remarks and spreading lies about my mental condition and how I make things up to gain attention. Tommy, the student Jonathan had been bugging, stood up unexpectedly and described what he had been through. Tommy told the director that Jonathan had been bugging him in different ways. When more children came forward, it was like dominoes dropped. Some people keep records of themselves as well. One lady said that Jonathan and his pals had been making fun of her weight for weeks. Another man had screenshots of Jonathan pestering him and threatening to inform everyone about it. I was summoned into the school counselor's office yesterday. She gave me a large box containing complaints about Jonathan from the previous year that had been misplaced or neglected. She asked whether I would be prepared to assist start up an anti-bullying organization at school and expressed regret that she had not done so sooner. She claimed the manner I spoke to Jonathan inspired other kids to speak up as well. Harris has told everyone who will listen. I'm a smart kid who set Jonathan up because I was jealous of him. Many of his family members believe him, including my Aunt Sarah. She contacted me yesterday and apologized profusely for ruining a young man's future due to teenage turmoil. She agreed with my mother that I should have handled the situation with my family, rather than going to the principal and making everyone seem awful. I'm still residing at my grandmother's place. She is assisting me with researching official independence because I will turn 18 in 4 months. According to the lawyer we talked to, I have a strong case, especially given the current situation. My mother usually sends me long, sad letters about how I'm causing problems for the family and how I'll feel horrible about it when I grow up. I'm no longer answering them. I don't see why she'd prioritize her marriage over her son. At the moment, I am trying to focus on my homework and keep up my grades. My grandmother has been fantastic through everything. She even set up a little desk for me to study in her guest room, exactly as I did at home. Reading my father's letters helps me on difficult days. He appeared to anticipate that I would need his guidance years later. I'm simply trying to get through each day right now, but I'll let you know if something significant occurs. I'd want to thank everyone once more for their assistance. It's reassuring to know that I'm not insane for advocating for myself. It's still difficult for me to grasp what happened because things shifted unexpectedly. I was surprised when Jonathan's biological mother, Karen, messaged me on Facebook last week. A member of Harris's family informed her about what happened, so she asked to meet to discuss it. Initially, I was a little nervous. I didn't understand her point of view, and Harris had always portrayed her as a deranged lady who had abandoned Jonathan. My grandma consented to accompany me, so we met Karen last Saturday at a coffee shop near her house. What she told us dramatically overturned what I thought I knew about the issue. Jonathan has a history of being a terrible bully. Before my mother and Harris were married, he was suspended 3 times from his former school for harassing others, students. The most recent episode was really terrible. As a prank, he and his buddies confined a youngster in the gym storage area for an extended period of time. Karen attempted to get Jonathan to enter treatment following the incident. To deal with Jonathan's aggressive conduct, she showed us emails she had exchanged with Jonathan's school counselor. The school counselor strongly advised Jonathan to obtain a psychiatric examination and therapy. Harris, on the other hand, said that Karen was attempting to make their kid appear weak and damaged. It was somewhat shocking when she told us about their custody dispute. Harris received full custody, not because he was the better dad, but because he had superior counsel and could persuade the court that Karen's request for therapy was an attempt to create difficulties where none existed. In truth, he had sent Jonathan to my school because his previous school had threatened to expel him for another reason, besides the marriage. Karen broke down in tears after telling us everything. She said that Harris threatened to sue her if she attempted to contact Jonathan's school or become engaged in his company, despite her efforts to remain active in his life. She continued telling me she regretted not speaking out sooner and that she was too terrified of Harris to do anything. Harris had done this previously, which explains why he was eager to threaten divorce if I didn't accept blame. He truly wants to assist Jonathan in resolving his issues, but he is more concerned with maintaining his reputation. He's been in this cycle for a long time. All of these items were handed to my mother last night. We had copies of everything Karen handed us, including court papers, emails, and school reports, but I was unsure whether she would trust us. Mom went over everything. I saw genuine comprehension on her face for the first time since the beginning of this catastrophe. Finally, she broke down and said that she had observed Jonathan's conduct at school before to the incident. She hadn't informed them, however, since she feared losing Harris. She mentioned moments when she had heard Jonathan harmed other children when he believed no one was looking. Specifically, some parents had stopped allowing their children to study in our place. She informed me that she had seen my uneasiness and retreat, but that it was usual for teens. Mom moved out of Harris' home today. After seeing the facts, she changed her mind and now lives with Aunt Sarah, the one who told me off. Mom has already filed for divorce, although not as a result of Harris' threat. People who would choose the protection of a bully over the safety of other children, she believes, cannot be around her, even if he doesn't have the kid. Karen and her lawyers are cooperating to get the parenting agreement was reviewed. She has previously spoken with counselors at a school in her state about Jonathan's background and what he need. She wants to relocate him there and provide him the assistance he should have received years ago. Harris is outraged that all of this has come to light. What was the most surprising aspect? Jonathan's previous school has contacted our director. They appear to be investigating how Jonathan's allegations of bullying were handled and why his acts were documented but then forgotten. There are hints that Harris may have been involved. That hasn't been confirmed yet. All of this still makes sense to me. It's kind of great knowing that I wasn't insane, and Jonathan had a long history that I was unaware of. However, it's disheartening to consider that none of this would have occurred if Jonathan had sought assistance years ago, when Karen first became aware of the issues. My mother is constantly blaming herself for not protecting me better. She now realizes how horrible what she asked me to do was, but we're still not well since too much harm has been done. She is discussing going to therapy for herself to understand out why she was so ready to overlook the warning signs. Right now, all I want to do is start the school year on a positive note. I'll notify you again if something significant occurs. My grandma taught me that I should be proud of the fact that I spoke with Jonathan about it, but also shattered the years-long quiet that had kept him secure. Third report, it's been 3 months since my last report, and things are finally returning to normal. There have been many changes since the last time I spoke with you. I moved back in with my mother approximately a month ago, after she purchased her own home. Even though the flat is smaller than our last home, it seems more familiar. She apologizes practically every day, and although I forgive her, our relationship has altered. We both appear cautious now, as if we don't want to say something inappropriate. To my surprise, I decided to start family counseling 2 weeks ago. This counselor is allowing us to communicate more effectively and rebuild our trust. The exam results at Jonathan's previous school were alarming. It appears that Harris was routinely working with the school's athletics department, which might explain why a lot of allegations against Jonathan were removed. The school board is currently conducting a thorough assessment, and certain supervisors have been placed on administrative leave. Jonathan went to the state where his mother lives last month and is now enrolled in a new school for kids with behavioral issues. I've heard he's doing better since Karen put him through so much treatment. In a lengthy Facebook message he sent me, he apologized for everything. He discussed how therapy is helping him deal with his anger issues and how he now knows why he behaved poorly. I have not responded yet. I might do it in the future, but I am not ready right now. The anti-bullying organization at school has expanded. We helped a few kids come forward with their bullying experiences, and the school administration is now treating these charges much more seriously. In fact, I'm on the committee alongside Tommy, Jonathan's rookie selection. He's grown into the type of brother I expected Jonathan to be, my younger brother. Reading the final few letters from my father that my grandma sent me was both heartbreaking and healing. In one of them, he expresses his desire for me to become someone who advocates for the rights of others. Even after all of these years, he still appears to be directing me what to do. My mother's separation ended last week. Harris tried to fight against it, but he immediately changed his mind once Mom's lawyer informed him about Jonathan's history and how Harris had helped hide it. Mom is also undergoing treatment to help her understand why she was so willing to dismiss Jonathan's bullying indications. She claims that since she was frightened of being alone again when her father died, she lost sight of what was most important, being a decent mother. What was the most startling event that happened? Place? I received a letter from Karen last week. She thanked me for being the first one to inform her about Jonathan's plight. She stated that watching her son finally receive the assistance he requires has given her peace after years of feeling guilty about not being able to help him. She also gave me a check for my college money as a thank you present, which I was able to cash with the assistance of my grandma. It didn't seem appropriate to accept it. I'll graduate next month and move to a distant state to attend college. My father left me money for school, and now that I've been accepted into a reputable computer science, my granny is assisting me with the money. It feels fantastic to have a new beginning. Harris continues to slander me to anybody who will listen, even though fewer people believe him anymore. Many of the family members who first backed him have apologized. Aunt Sarah, for example, now gives me cookies every weekend and constantly expresses how thrilled her father would be. This entire experience has taught me a lot about sticking up for what is right, even when it is difficult. I've learned that you should continue to defend oneself, even when those who are supposed to do so fail to do so. Everyone who assisted me made me happy, but my grandma demonstrated true family love. I'm not that furious anymore.